Hey everybody, welcome to episode 84. Sorry, I was just looking over to make sure the sound was working. Yeah, it is. Okay. Episode 84. I'm gonna do my review on this album today. Uh, instead of I've gone through and I've listened to the album 3 times now. Um, Once on what do you call it? YouTube, the YouTube music, just because it's easier. I can sit here, I can type up my notes. I don't have to keep going over there and hit pause on the turntable and bring the needle up. But I've listened to it twice now on the record itself. Record's flawless, doesn't have a scratch on it. It's like I said, it's probably you know I would say the disc itself's probably near mint, very good, near mint. The sleeve itself, I don't know, I'm giving a Discogs review here or whatever, or assessment of it, but it's not, like I said, it's not in the not perfect shape, but it's pretty close. I mean, you know. And of course, here's the inner sleeve to it, which I believe just says picture of the band members there. Um, I'll go over the guys in general. Well, yeah, they're named right on here. So I'm gonna keep this out just because I want to kind of show the little pictures here of the band. I'll hold it up to the camera. If I had better ones, I'd show you, but it just has their names on it, which will be a good reference for me, and then I can cross-reference it. I'm gonna reference the Wikipedia page on them too, just so you guys can get a little bit more of a feel of this band. Like I said, this is a band that was pointed out to me by a watcher here or a subscriber on YouTube. Again, I'm sorry, I forgot to look up what your name is. As to give you a shout out, but if anybody's wants to is curious, you know, who sent it or who mentioned it, just go back, and I think it was one of the Kiss videos. There was a comment somebody left. It should be still up there, and they mentioned this band. And like I said, until that person mentioned this band, I had never heard of them. And so I've known of these people for what, 2 weeks now, maybe ish, or whatever that was. That was the comment came in. So again, I encourage people, give me comments. I mean, you got stuff that you want to recommend that ask me if I've heard of them or not. You got somebody, I love uh, obscure stuff, especially from the 70s and 80s. I love the obscure stuff. Send me a message, and tip me off to it. Ask me if I've heard of them. Even if I have heard of them, if I haven't really thought about them, or you can tell me why I should be liking them. Maybe I'll look into them. Like I said, we can access anything online. I don't have to necessarily buy the album to sample the music. I could just tell me the band, tell me the album, and I'll go on YouTube Music if it's on there, which probably is. I can listen to it. Sorry, I'm only getting sleepy. They're also cutting the lawn. He's already made about 6 passes, so hopefully he's done now. But of course they'll start doing the weed whacking. So bear in mind that might be coming up soon. But yeah, like I said, I got the album now, and it's in a little rice paper sleeve. So again, there's that Casablanca record label on the record. But yeah, I gotta say, it's probably, this is probably gonna go into my top favorite bands and top favorite albums. I love this album. Like I said, they do have the 2023 album. It just came out, Once Upon a Time, I think it was called. And I'll probably get that, but I wanted to start with the beginning, just because this is, like I said, when the first person who tipped me off to it, and I first looked them up before I even discovered that they had a new album out. This was the first thing I clicked on. The Tower, which is the first track on the song, is the first song I ever listened to by him, and I was instantly blown away. And it's definitely my favorite track off this entire album. But we'll get into that. So let's take a look at the Wikipedia. Here it comes. Hear the buzzing? You guys listen to the buzzing while I click over here. Alright, hit pause. It'll just be a second. But yeah, so I pulled up the Wikipedia page, so we'll go through the band a little bit. And there he goes, right across the window too. The camera's like literally 3 feet from the window. He goes right up to the window there and does it. So looks like he made his pass. So hopefully he's done with my section. So yeah, here, Angel American Band. Let's see here. Angel's an American rock band from Washington, D.C. That's interesting. Formed in the mid-1970s by Punky Meadows, Mickey Jones, and Greg Giuffria, I guess that's how you say it. They're primarily known for their flamboyant glam stage presence and white satin outfits. And as you'll see here, it'll give you a little primer here with, obviously Gene Simmons being somebody who's integral into their career. Angel was discovered by Kiss bass player Gene Simmons performing at a nightclub and was eventually signed to the same label as Kiss Casablanca, hence the Casablanca record label. Angel's image of dressing in all white was deliberate contrast to Kiss, who wore black. Angel sported an androgynous image and elaborate stage sets. Frank Zappa wrote a satirical song about Punky Meadows with Punky's approval titled Punky Whips. Angel never achieved mass commercial success, but acquired a following as a cult band, and that makes sense. I mean, I'm not saying that I like some pretty obscure bands, but, they're a cult band, and I just never, in my years of travel, I've crossed the music verse. I've never crossed paths with this band. I might have seen the album cover, possibly. I might have, it's got a very iconic cover with that, that face, that kind of gold face. Sorry. But no, I never heard it. Okay, so their first album was self-titled Angel. That is the album we're reviewing today, the first album. Let's go here again. So, 1975, and consisted of guitarist Punky Meadows, bassist Mickey Jones, vocalist Frank Domino, keyboardist Greg Griffey, I guess, and drummer Barry Brandt. So let's find these guys on this sheet here. So, who was the first guy up? Probably Punky Meadows. Oh wow, he's young. Actually, he looks like my Aunt Patsy now. That's Punky Meadows there on guitar. Who else do we got? Bassist Mickey Jones. Where's Mickey? Mickey, over here in the corner. Oops, right there. Oh, sorry, right there. And who else do we got? Mickey Jones, vocalist Frank Domino, which he's also one of the still members that are still around. There's Frank there at the bottom. Keyboardist Greg, I'm just going to call him Greg. A young, if Glenn Fry and Rick Wakeman had a kid, there would be, there he is right there. And who was the last guy? The drummer, Barry Brandt. Obviously the guy on the drums, Barry Brandt. So yeah, and like I said, they would wear all these white satin outfits and stuff, which kind of became their trademark. And they've donned the white satin again. I think the bass player Mickey is passed away. I'm not sure about the other guys. Does it say? Or does it say Mickey? I think Mickey might be the only one that's passed. What are the names of these guys again? Some of them don't have Wikipedia entries. Okay, so anyways, like I said, I remember reading here that so basically they went to about 1981, and I think that was the last year they were together, and they did I think they had, it was either 1980 or 1981 they came out with the solo album. It'll show it in the discography, a solo album, a live album. It says Domino and Meadows departed the band in 1981, and the remaining members brought in vocalist Fergie Fredrickson, I think I saw that, later of Toto, and guitarist Ricky Phillips, later of the Babies, and then Bad English, then Styx. But then this lineup did not release new material, and it dissolved shortly thereafter. Okay. The former members of Angel went on to other things. So basically, a lot of them went out and did other. Some people joined, like Frank Domino joined UFO. I've heard of UFO. Not really well versed in them. I know everybody loves UFO, but I haven't really done a deep dive UFO to really get into them. I kind of started to, and they didn't appeal to me right off the bat. Let's see. One other guy went into White Lion. I know White Lion. I like them. Let's see. Blah 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 blah. Somebody I know went House of Lords. Yeah, it's funny. House of Lords. This is funny. Who went there? That's just the keyboardist. Yeah, the keyboardist, Greg. He joined House of Lords. I think that's him on the far left there. It's funny. So, speaking of Rush, for when the album Presto came out, and I went to the Presto tour there at the Palace of Auburn Hills, and that would have been in early 1990, because the album came out in 89. Me and my one buddy and everybody were there, and they were telling me, or I was telling them, I said, I can't remember who opened up for him for the Power Windows, but I said, yeah, the big mythos was that Rush, their opening act gets booed off the stage, because nobody wants to hear anybody but Rush when they're there. And like I said, I went to the Power Windows, and I don't recall that happening. In this concert that didn't happen, and because the opening band for that tour for Rush Presto at the Palace was House of Lords. Now, I remember people talking at the concert, like people next to us there, people talking about House of Lords, and I'd never heard of House of Lords up until that point. And they're talking, oh yeah, House of Lords. So obviously they had a pedigree to that point. And then I can't remember anything they played. Like I said, I really wasn't. I just had Rush on my brain, just like a lot of people did. So I couldn't tell you what or what they even sounded like. I know they weren't terrible, but and I don't remember anybody booing them off the stage. I think they played their full set, and then they got off, and then Rush took the stage, and rest is Rush history, or House of Lords history, whatever you want to call it. But it's just funny when I read that. I was like, there's a connection that I know. So anyways, yeah, so they reunited a little bit. So I'm not going to get into their because I'm trying to cover the first album here and their older stuff. So, when I think I might go get into this more if I get the new album, which I probably will, and do that one as well. But needless to say, they've been around for a long time, and they obviously broke up very early, and and they kind of tried to get back together, but they're back together now. I just played the Whiskey A Go Go. You can see some of that on the YouTube, but it's not very good quality. You can barely hear anything. They do a cover of The Tower as like an encore, I think, at the Whiskey A Go Go, and I could barely understand the lyrics here. It's just that somebody's recording with their cell phone, and not a good one, so it wasn't really a good mix. Maybe recording with a cell phone in like a small club like the Go Go, it doesn't have the best sound. Maybe outdoors, like you see the Pine Knob ones, like all those ghost videos. That sounded okay. But yeah, so let's get into the album here. So I got my note sheet here, which I took my notes. Let's switch over to the album itself now. I said other versions. I guess there's other albums and by people called Angel, so everything keeps coming up here. It's kind of funny. So ignore that. That has nothing to do with this album. But there's the album, and again, there's the cool album cover art. I'll probably put a thumbnail, put that in the thumbnail. But the Tower, like I said, the first song right off the bat, I mean, that one just hits you like a ton of bricks. It starts off a little bit like, where are they going to go with this? And then when it really kicks in, it's just awesome. And so I put for my notes, I said, this song really sets the precedence for the album as a band, for the album and the band as a whole, which I believe it does. I mean, this really does set the tone, this opening track. That's very 70s rock, but like I said, one foot in prog rock, the other foot in like glam rock. So think to yourself like, is it the New York Dolls? I can't remember. Or what was the band that does Ballroom Blitz and all that stuff? Is that the New York Dolls? I can't remember. Kind of think them a little bit, and then kind of think a prog band. And specifically, not necessarily... I'm trying to think of a prog band they sound like a little bit. They got a little bit of Triumph in there. They've got a little bit of... I mean, like I said, I'll mention some of the stuff that I can hear when I hear these songs, but obviously, you know, I had the discussion with my friend last night, one friend about last night. I said, you know what, every time everybody references like Greta Van Fleet, and I'll talk about them as well in this video. A lot of people mention, everything, you know, it sounds like Led Zeppelin. It's like, okay, well, Led Zeppelin's just the most well-known band of the 70s that was doing that type of rock, right? I think everybody kind of sounded, and people sounded different. Obviously, Yes doesn't sound like Rush, right? But I think that a lot of bands, especially the ones that weren't like super self-indulgent with the prog rock, who, like I said, had a foot in prog rock and then kind of a foot in the mainstream, which is bands like Rush at the time. I mean, Rush did get a little self-indulgent there, but a lot of them just have that similar sound. A lot of people were using a lot of the same instruments, using the same rigs, you know, like all the bass players were using, you know, SVT cabinets, you know, Ampeg SVTs. A lot of them were playing jazz basses, a lot of them playing P basses. You know, all the guitar players loved their Strats and their Les Pauls. A lot of them were playing through Marshalls. I mean, a lot of it just, everybody kind of had that same sound, you know. And I was watching somebody's video, and they're talking about, you know, today about plugins, like you know, emulators and plugins and stuff, and I'm like, oh, everybody, you know, in the whatever it was, power metal, not power metal, death metal or black metal or whatever, they're talking about, oh yeah, they all use the same plugins and they all use the same, everything's very similar, and that was the case a lot with a lot of bands. I mean, there are certain bands that would experiment more, and they would do different sounds and do something that not everybody was doing. I mean, what's his face? I can't remember. Schultz. Was it Tom Schultz? Guy from Boston. I mean, he kind of created his own sound, you know. So, and then some other bands started emulating Boston, you know. So, you know, even Kiss, you know, sounded a lot like Zeppelin in certain spots, you know, not always, but yeah, I think they all kind of had that feel. So I wouldn't say, hey, this band sounds like a 70s, or sounds like Led Zeppelin rock. I would just say it sounds like a 70s rock band. You know, maybe they got a foot in prog more, or maybe they have a foot more in the mainstream. You know, maybe it's funny, even back then, everything kind of had had that proggy feel. I mean, even Southern rock, like, you know, Molly Hatchet or Leonard Skinner. I mean, just some of the iconography, you know, if you look at their album covers, you know, using a lot of Frazetta paintings and stuff, everything kind of had that biker / fantasy, like science fiction / proggy. Everything just kind of had that, because that's just how the 70s were back then. You know, I mean, I lived through most of it, but I was very small. But I remember, you know, pieces of it, obviously, you know, towards the end of the 70s. You know, of course, then the early 80s was just a holdover from the 70s. It wasn't until, like, the new wave movement and MTV really started to take hold that we even came out of that. I mean, I would still consider up to 82, I would consider that still sort of the 70s. I mean, I think the 80s, to me, for me, is 83 and up, you know. I think when MTV really started, I know MTV started, what, 81 or 82? But I think when MTV really got going, I think when Michael Jackson's Thriller came out, I think when, a lot of those bands from the early 80s, like the heavy metal scene in California, Whiskey A Go-Go being one of the places they'd play, I think that's when the 80s started to kind of take hold. But up until then, I think it was still a remnants of the 70s. So, what else do I got to say about that first track? I said, and this is what I said, they sound like they're from a different, even though I say they sound like the 70s and kind of contradict everything I just said, even though I said they sound like 70s, they also sound like they're from their own time. Like, I can't, it's almost like they stepped out of another time and another dimension, to me, because it seemed like I had a kind of a handle on the 70s. And then along comes this band. I mean, it's like, I like when people do like the Ghost thing, where they're talking about like the band, was formed in the late 80s, which it didn't, and I like, a couple of my friends have a comic, out, and it's about a band who, it's about a musician whose parents, is the son of a guy who played in a band in the 70s, and they kind of made up this like kind of like fictitious history of a band. I like that. I think that's cool. Even Spinal Tap, I mean, it's a made-up band, right? You get bands like this, and I just feel like I feel like this is like a caricature. Like, this is somebody made this up. It still doesn't sunk into me that this was actually a real band. It's almost like going like, am I still living in a simulation? Somebody just rewrite history with this one. Sorry, it's just the way I mean, obviously you've been into Angel since the 70s, you have no idea what I'm talking about, but I'm telling you, my point of view just feels very weird. Like I said, I feel like a glitch in the Matrix kind of thing. But yeah, The Tower, I mean, this song is epic. Lead vocals are epic. It's a fist pumper, clean guitar riffs, against that mellotron. There's so much mellotron. There's so much, as I call it, synthesizer spazzing going on, keyboard spazzing going on, which I love. I don't say that in a derogatory term. I'm just saying that's what it's a lot of, there's a lot of that stuff going on, but I love it. It's like I said, the mellotron. I said, mellotron sounds like prog candy, and I'm going to come up with a new term. I'm having a progasm. If you listen to some prog rock and you hear a lot of mellotrons, and you have a certain like 70s sound of prog rock, and you're really like, oh God, I love this, right? That feeling, that overwhelming sensation. I'm going to call that a progasm. So I coined that word, so nobody steal it. Or if they steal it, credit me. Progasm. You're having a progasm. I said I found myself air drumming right away to this song. When I'm air drumming, I usually like a song. I'll start air drumming pretty easily. But when I hear a fist pumping song, and like I said, a chant for the 70s rock gods, I'll start air drumming. I'll start getting into it. This song is just, I love it. Second track, which is also very, as you can see, is a very long track. 7 minutes, and first one was 7 minutes pretty much. Second one, they're about the same track. These are two long ones right off the bat. Long time. I said right off the bat, the fantasy soundscape weaves its tapestry into your head via the headphones. I was just feeling stupid when I wrote that, but anyways, you get the point. It's very fantasy. Very, it's got that whole kind of feeling. I said you could close your eyes and there's a song, you're on an astral plane drifting into eternity. I kind of feel like I should have queued up the little segment, but I feel like Dean on the Venture Brothers, when Dr. Venture, he's sitting there in the egg chair and he has a milk crate of records, and he's got the headphones and the stereo, and he's like going, let me introduce you to the world of progressive rock. And he said, I'd start you off with something. He goes, I can't start you off with something too hardcore. I'm going to have to, you have to tone it down a bit, and your entry level. I'm not quoting this verbatim, but he says I'll start you off something a little easy to listen to, like Asia. I saw that segment on Venture Brothers. I was laughing my ass off. It was so funny. It was like, they just nailed it right on the head. And that's what I feel like. I feel like I'm Dean, and I've got the headphones on, and I'm melting back into the egg chair, and I'm, you know what I mean? I feel like my naked body is swirling around in like this primordial ooze of 70s, acid-driven, waka chicka waka chicka. But anyways, so in this one, this wasn't the specific song that really keyed me into it, but I could hear the start of it is the vocal runs by who's the singer? Frank's vocal runs. I'm hearing myself, and obviously they're way before the band I'm going to reference, but I'm just hearing sounds like Greta Van Fleet. So, and as when we get to Sunday morning, it'll solidify. So I'm pretty convinced that the Greta Van Fleet, I'm sure they're big fans of Led Zeppelin, right? But I'm pretty sure that they are aware of this band and were aware of this band and were listening to Angel because I can't remember, Josh, I think, is the kid, the vocalist for Greta Van Fleet. His vocal runs sound a lot like Frank's runs. A little bit in this one, but like I said, when we get to Sunday morning, it sounds just like Greta Van Fleet. Well, flip that around. Greta Van Fleet sounds just like Angel on that track. So, yeah. And here's the thing. Sure, the tones and stuff are predictable. I'm going off my notes here. But the thing is, that's okay. Because even when people are like, oh god, this, it sounds like prog rock, it sounds very predictable, like, oh, it's going to sound like that, right? What's wrong with that? Because you know what predictability is? Predictability is comfort, right? This is comfort food. I don't want something unpredictable. When I hear this, I want to be able to say, okay, I know where they're going to go. I know they're going to go to this. I know they're going to, oh, here come the Mellotrons. Here come the whatever, the Keytars. I don't think there's any Keytars in this one, but here come the Mellotrons. Here comes the Les Paul. Here comes the vocal runs. It's just like, here comes a certain, voice. I mean, all of that, I'm well steeped in my Yes and my Rush and my stuff of that time. Being those are the primary bands that I listened to for most of my life, when I think of prog rock. So when I hear something that sounds like that, if some people, it's predictable, it's nothing new, right? It's like, no, it is new. It's new to me because I've never heard about it before. But the thing is, they're doing something different with it. There's enough difference to where it doesn't become an actual clone. Like, I would not put clone in Angel of Zeppelin. Angel's not a clone of Yes. They're not a clone of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. They're not a clone of Rush. But I can hear certain things, especially of the certain time, this 1975 time period. I can hear things in the songs. I mean, Fly By Night and Caress of Steel came out in 75, right? I think Relayer, Rush's Relayer was out. I think that's what Yes's Relayer was out. I can't think of what. Pink Floyd, I think, might have been on, I don't even know what Pink Floyd album was out at this time. But, yeah, it's predictable, sure, but predictability also means comfort, means that, it's a safe zone. It's a comfort spot, I don't normally want to come out of my comfort zone. People, listen to this, get out of your comfort zone and listen to something new. No. At my age, I hate to keep sounding like a broken record, but at my age, I don't care if I don't come out, if I don't try something new. I can be as closed-minded as all I want. I don't need to listen to anything new. This is new to me. So I will take the chance when I find something interesting. So like I said, you present me a band, you say, hey, you got to listen to this band. They're from a certain time period. You love that music at that certain time period. You're going to love this band. Hey, check them out. I will honestly check them out, right? But if it pushes me too far out of my comfort zone, and I can't really, I guess it doesn't do, you know, it's so out of my comfort zone that I don't, there's no reason for me to like it. And I'll be honest with people, I'm honest with this one. I'm not just making this up. I generally like this band. Another band that also reminds me of, and a band I haven't talked about much, and I need to get. I had a couple of CDs. I had like 3 or 4 CDs, which who knows where they went. But I need to get them back on vinyl, and they're all been reissued, but they're really expensive. And I guess I'd rather just get the old ones if I can find them relatively inexpensive. Is Budgie. I really got into Budgie at like the late '90s, early 2000s. I'd always seen Budgie at Harmony House Berkeley down in Berkeley there on Woodward. There was a box set called the Budgie box set, and I always kept looking at it, and I'm like, what is that? And I never bought it because it was like $50-$60 back then. And I always wanted this Budgie box set, which I need to look up and see if that what that goes for. It was a CD box set though. I think it was like. I was down at Solo Records, I think, in like the late '90s, and I came across Squawk and In for the Kill, and I didn't even know that Metallica did a cover of Bread Fan. But anyways, I was like, the only reason I knew of this band was because of that one box set that had real cool Roger Dean art back in the day, and I was like, oh, I kind of wanted. And this is how I discovered the Hawkwind. I discovered the same way. Was, I was down at Harmony House Berkeley, and they had some kind of thing for sale, and I just kept looking at it, and I'd pick it. They put them in a little shelf over the CDs, and I grabbed it and looked, and I was like, oh, what is this? I like this. I don't know what it is. I put it back, and eventually I came back to it, but we didn't have the internet then, so you couldn't, unless you knew somebody owned it. It's not like you could have just looked up, written down Hawkwind, Budgie, and then just going home and listen to it. I did that also in the early 2000s with a lot of bands that I had always heard people talk about but never listened to, like Van de Graaff Generator, Camel, Gentle Giant, all those Canterbury bands. And then I did a deep dive, and that's actually when I was going to get back into records, was like 2007. 2006, 2007, I was in Washington, D.C. I went to that record store, and I found a bunch of those records. The guy gave me like a whole stack of them for like $100, and I was, I didn't even have a turntable, and I was listening to them because I found them all on various spots online. I think most of them are probably, Napster versions of them, but I found a bunch of stuff, and I started listening to it. I really got into it. But then it kind of got out of it quick because only a couple of those bands actually liked. A lot of them were kind of boring, and they were comfort food. Like I'm saying, But the thing is, I think it just became too repetitive, and some of them were very boring. They just didn't have like this band. This band's got this fist pumping, crazy chorus and stuff, and it's very catchy. And more powerful. And I would consider this is a rock band. It's not necessarily a prog band, a hardcore prog band, but bands like Camel and Van de Graaff and Gentle Giant, those are more hardcore prog bands. And then there's like those in-between ones like Uriah Heep and Wishbone Ash and all those bands. Let's see, let's go back. Where were we? So is that all I had to say? Yeah, that's pretty much that's all I had to say about Long Time, and it was a long song. Trust me. Rock and Rollers. Now this one, I kind of find it the weakest song on the album, but Rock and Rollers, just by the title alone too, it's the most Led Zeppelin. The guitars are very heavy Zeppelin, very Jimmy Page. It doesn't. What's the rock and roll? Is it the song? I can't remember the song from Zeppelin. Been a long time since I rock and roll. It's just called Rock and Roll, or Been a Long Time since Rock and Roll. Whatever that bit song is, it kind of has that. It doesn't sound just like it, but it's in that same vein. So I would say Rock and Rollers is probably the most Led Zeppelin song on the album, because all the other ones veer off and they're no longer like Zeppelin. But Like I said, I think it's the weakest song on the album, personally. Broken Dreams. What did I say? Oh yeah, so Back to the Prague. Said it's hard now going from, or said that it's a little harder, and it has now it's going from like a Jimmy Page guitar more into like a Deep Purple or Black Sabbath, and it's a lot harder. And you know what other band would made me think of right when I was listening to Broken Dreams was Wolfmother. And now, granted, you know, when Mother came out in the 2000s, I got into them with that first album. I said, you know, like the Dimension song, In Another Dimension. And I said, who does this band sound like? It sounds a little bit like Black Sabbath. You know, they're using Gibsons, you know, SGs and Rickenbacker bass, and they kind of had that sound. I think the keyboard guy I think it was the bass player who also the keyboard player played like this Hammond organ or some kind of like Emerson, Lake and Palmer, like Keith Emerson organ, and it had that feel. But now listening to this band, it's like, why this band come? So I think Wolfmother probably was listening to Angel too, which I said another band that has to have been influenced by them, which is proof I'm not very cool. All these younger guys than me all knew about this stuff, right? I didn't know about Angel back when, you know, that time, so I couldn't even have made that association. And so I'm not as cool as some people. But yeah, and then the end of the song is just a synthesizer spaz fest. It just goes all over the place. But I mean, I say that in a loving way. I love that. The Mariner, again, the first thing right off the bat is what is with rock metal musicians hard on for that Rime of the Ancient Mariner book. You know, I guess there's only two people I know have done it. I mean, there's this song, The Mariner, and then of course Rime of the Ancient Mariner by Iron Maiden, which is funny because the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, I mean, Iron Maiden hit that one right on. It's two hit right on the head. This one's, you know, it gives a little bit more left to interpretation, although you can clearly hear they're talking about that. The melody in this is very hooky, and I said I love the mellotron in this. And then here's my if I was a transformer, right? Because I'm very laid back, right? And if you were to make a transformer out of me, my name would be the Mellotron, because I'm very mellow. To be a transformer. That was my Mellotron joke. Sorry, it's not that funny, but I chuckled when I first thought of it, and I thought, oh, hey, Mellotron, a very laid-back transformer. That's me. And then sometimes it didn't really go into it, but I kind of felt like it was going into like the Chris de Burgh kind of territory at certain points, which I thought was cool. But yeah, it didn't have it didn't go into it yet. Or sorry, I'm sorry, I just got distracted by the phone. But no, yeah, it kind of sounded very kind of Chris de Burgh either. But it didn't go really hardcore Chris de Burgh. I felt like I was going into that territory. Okay, now we get to track 6, Sunday Morning. So have we flipped it over yet? I don't know. Yeah, I think we flipped. I think the record flips the B-side at the Mariner. I think Mariner's first song on the B-side. So now we're at Sunday Morning. I could hear more Budgie in this, which again also makes me think that Greta Van Fleet was also listening to Budgie. Here come the synthesizers again. I mean, just full flavor. And so this is the song that really makes me think that the Greta Van Fleet was listening to, because of the vocal runs. Very apparent, very apparent. So, what did I put? Oh yeah, sound a little Boston, a little bit of Boston, not much. A little bit of Boston thrown in there. And then the keyboards get a little Hawkwindy there with this kind of like Hawkwind's keyboards. It's like funny. A lot of the guitar riffs in Hawkwind are just these long, drawn-out, really simple, rocky-sounding, heavy, distorted guitars. You know, like a Silver Machine. you know, and the bass just follows it, do 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 do, and they just go on, and the keyboards, they just play like one note. Like let's say they're doing that in E, and like the keyboard would just go, and they just follow it, just the chord, maybe just a single note. I think they would pull the whole chord into it. With that, and then just follow, and everything would just follow, and that's the keyboards kind of sound like that. The song had kind of a Hawkwind feel to it. Track 7, on and on, on and on and on. Yeah, it's a pretty good one. This one, the guitar, not the vocals, but the guitars kind of starting to sound kind of Brian May, Queen a little bit. Not heavy, but I could feel a little Queen in there. And then, of course, the 8th track to the Angel, the theme. Was it a instrumental? Or was there lyrics in it? I can't remember if there was lyrics in this. I didn't put that note down there. But this one with a wow, 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 it sounded a lot like Mr. Crowley. And I think that's I don't think it's a Mellotron that makes that noise. I think it's a Moog. It has that wow, 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 wow. It's a Moog that's doing that. I can't remember exactly, but it sounds very Mr. Crowley, you know, for the Ozzy song with Randy Rhoads on it. But again, that's comfort. You sure it sounds a little bit like that, but I like Mr. Crowley, so it has some comfort to it. And obviously, it's this 75. I mean, I think probably most likely. I don't know who the keyboard player was for Ozzy at the time, but I think if he was the one who came up with that line on the keyboard, he was probably listening to Angel. He probably heard that from Angel, because it sounds a lot. The Angel theme sounds a lot like Mr. Crowley. The sound in some of the like the tempo and the phrasing, it's not like he's playing the exact chords. It just has that same similar feel to it. So yeah, so that's the album. I guess this might be a little shorter video. Of course, we're on to 42 minutes. Yeah, I'm going to definitely try to, you know, snag some more of these albums. I mean, I'm totally lucked out. I went, like I said, if you watched the last video, I just learned of this band not that long ago, within like a week or two. And I just listened to and I thought to myself, oh, I really want to get that first album. I really like that. And then I looked online and I said, oh, well, you know, they got the new album, but it looks like you can't get there's no reissues of the old albums on record. I thought, I went on Discogs, and I was like, oh, I put them in my wish list on Discogs, and I wasn't thinking much of it. If anything, I was thinking when I got to they would have the new album at the record store, but you know, but probably not. Didn't have a lot of faith, because I mean, I like the record store, but it seems like a lot of like really obscure stuff, you know, sometimes they don't have it. And you know, I looked at new records, and I didn't see anything. So I went over to the rock section. They break up there. They look a rock and hard rock, I think they put together, and then they have like a heavy metal section. And then they have like a prog rock section, but the whole section is pretty much their rock section. It just starts out kind of general rock, moves more heavy metal, moves prog rock. Like Tangerine Dream, I think they even put into prog rock at the very end there in T. And then Hawkwind, I think they put in the prog rock. But anyway, so I went to the far left to A, you know, and just start flipping through, and boom, like the third or fourth album into A, I pull this, and I'm like, holy shit, there it is. And like I said, I was all like kind of nervous. I was like, well, I hope it's in good condition. And I looked at the price, it was like $7.55, and I'm like going, oh, it's cheap too. And I was just so hoping that it wasn't screwed up and have a giant gash across it or anything. And I opened it up, and I looked at it, took it up to just take records up to the counter and kind of look at them, and it was perfect. And I was like, okay. I did notice a little bit of wear, on the sleeve, but the sleeve was pretty much intact. I mean, here it is. Let me pull myself on the main kind of done with all that at the moment. So yeah, I mean, again, I'll pull this out and we'll kind of look at this up close. So, you know, like I said, a little bit of ring wear there, not bad. You know, a little bit of it at the bottom, but not much, because it's like a dark, almost midnight blue, almost black cover, which I also like. You know, the edging and stuff has the typical wear you'd see in an older record. You know, not a big deal. Doesn't smell like pot. Does smell like basement. There's the back cover. You know, again, there's a little bit of wearing on the top there. A little bit, just a hair on the bottom. But other than that, I mean, it's a pretty good representation of the album art. You know, and like I said, I put them in these plastic sleeves and stuff, so it should stay pretty good. You know, like I said, I take care of these things pretty well. But yeah, I want to get more. You know, I might have to order them on Discogs and kind of seek them out that way. Like I said, I got that record convention coming up this weekend, and I'm hoping that I might find one or two there for a decent price. I definitely pick them up. You know, like I said, knowing my luck, they'll have everything I'm looking for. You know, and they'll want like $15 a piece for them. You know, there's 4 albums I think I need to get, and that's a hefty $60. You know, you know, at that point, you know, I guess at that point, if I really want to get them, that would be the time to get them. But you know, maybe I just buy 2. I don't know. From what I've heard, like I said, I haven't been to this convention, but what I've heard, the guys over there are pretty good about wheeling and dealing and stuff. You know, if you bought 4 records off somebody from a band, you know, they might give you a little bit of a deal. Who knows? So I'm just speculating, but we'll find out about that. I don't know if people would mind it or not, as far as people at the convention, but I might pull out my phone and maybe record a little video here. Like I said, especially if I find those albums there, maybe I'll record a little video of me finding the albums or whatnot, and show you, you know, and you kind of get a look and see what the convention looked like. I mean, a lot of people do convention videos, so I'm sure that other people doing it as well. So I'll probably record a little bit of a video for the convention video, and I'll play that into whatever video I'm going to record at the time, and I'll play a little bit of that and kind of show you that stuff. So we'll do that. I still have to respond to Gunship. I'll probably do it next. I'll probably do it, well, I don't know if I'm going to have time tomorrow because my son's coming over after school and I got to get some work done. He usually comes over right about the time I'm recording this one a little early today, just because I had to pivot a little bit to do a couple of things. But usually when the son comes over, if I don't have time and I'm busy, I usually work up until time he gets here, and then he's usually here right at the time I'm going to record a video. So, you know, I might just wait till Thursday. I'll be by myself this weekend, so I'll be able to keep the cache of videos going. So we'll see what's going to happen there. I just finished reading the first comic in the 4 limited series of Wolverine, so I'll be doing that review pretty soon. I got not a lot to say, but I got some things to say about that. Other than that, you know, their comics, you know, the new comics and stuff, we'll see if it comes out this week. I think this is the last week of Ahsoka on Disney Plus, so I think I'm going to also probably maybe this weekend or sometime kind of do another, just watch all of them back to back, and then take some notes, and I'll you know, give you my you know, I'm pretty sure I can get it all in one video. Let's do my kind of assessment of the whole Ahsoka series, you know, because that's really the only thing I'm watching right now on TV. I know that new movie came out, that sci-fi movie, which I can't remember the name of it. Oh, I probably won't go to the theater. It's just too expensive, and I have no way to get there. So, it's way across the bridge and way on the other side of town, so I probably won't go to the movies to see that movie. I don't think my son will want to see it. So I'll probably just wait till that movie comes out on whatever, and then, I'll do I might do a review of that if it's worth reviewing. I don't know. Everybody says it's great. Everybody says it's like a Star Wars type science fiction movie, so it's piqued my interest. But people say that, and I feel let down. There's that Rebel Moon TV show supposed to be on Netflix. I think it's Netflix, and I know there's some controversy going with that. It's not coming out in time, or they're pushing it back till next year. I don't know. So, that's why this is definitely not a video on TV. Especially current TV or modern TV, because there's nothing really on. I mean, I could do like I did modern comics, modern action figures. I could do a video on modern TV, and pretty much it's another rant. As far as what's out now, and just the way it's all laid out now with streaming services and all this other stuff. I think everything's just a big mess. The country itself, if not the world, just seems to be kind of stuck in this funky mess. And like I said, times are changing. It's I don't know. Again, I've got not at best, but I probably have 30 years left on the planet. Maybe 40. I'd like to turn 90 and see my son, turn 50. That'd be nice. But maybe with the modern advancements in medical technology, that'll happen. As long as I don't get the big C, which I don't smoke anymore, and I never really worked around a lot of chemicals, so I don't know if I could get that. I mean, and I don't really drink the Bay City water. If I cook with it and boil it, but I don't really drink it as far as tap water, so I usually drink bottled water or my whatever. I take that back though. I make the tea. I make the tea with the. All right, I'm screwed. I'm gonna get what Bay City cancer from the water. Anyways. Yeah, sorry, going down that weird kind of tangent there. Alright, let's end this video. It's just shy of an hour, so hey, you get a little bit of a reprieve to it. It's kind of like when the teacher says, hey, I'll let you go a little early today when you're in college. That's always nice. Yeah, again, I'll probably do the gunship tomorrow, most likely, or whenever the next video. This one should go out on, let's see, today I have Wednesday. Tomorrow I'm going to post the Meliora. So this should go out Thursday, so I should have the Friday's video will be the one that we're recording. Maybe it's going to be Gunship. Maybe I'll just talk about the comics again, modern comics. I don't know. We'll see what's going on. There's a couple of comics I did end up looking at out of the comics this week that are alright. But we'll get more into that in the comic stuff. But alright, I will catch you guys later and see you on the next one. Alright, bye-bye.